9 spine-chilling Badfriend horror stories, exposed secrets that haunt and terrify forever. The fateful night began when Sarah stumbled into her darkened home, fatigue tightening her chest after another grueling 12-hour shift as a nurse. She expected silence, perhaps the subtle hum of the refrigerator or the gentle creaks of the house settling in. Instead, a chill ran down her spine as she paused on the threshold, clutching her badge while shadows danced in the corners of her vision. Toys lay strewn across the floor in unnatural disarray, glaring up at her like tiny, accusatory eyes. Whispers, faint and ghastly, tickled her ears, sending icy fingers creeping down her back. Lucy and Max should have been asleep, their bodies nestled under blankets, dreamt of dragons and princesses. Yet, the oppressive air felt alive, heavy with unspoken words. Sarah's heart raced, thudding wildly in the echoing silence. The light from her phone flickered, illuminating the graffiti that marred her otherwise pristine walls, "Never alone." She blinked, disbelief momentarily quelling the rising panic. Had her kids drawn on the walls again? Only, Lucy could barely form words, and Max was too young for such rebellion. She fumbled toward the dim glow in the kitchen, not entirely certain what awaited her. Had she missed a message from Mark, her rock, her constant, her best friend? Panic clawed at her throat, rising with each step. Mark had been increasingly close as her shifts turned into relentless nightmares. At first, his protective instincts felt kind, but slowly, something inside Sarah shifted, her trust mingling with unease. Was it her imagination? The shadow of exhaustion? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As she entered the kitchen, a sudden gust of cold air swirled past her, rattling the cabinets and stirring dust motes that seemed to glisten like broken dreams. Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. A message from Mark, full of concern about her late shifts. "You're always working so hard. I'm here for you, Sarah. You can trust me." The words felt sticky, weaving into her mind like a web that threatened to snare her completely. But the whispers grew louder now, twisting through the hallway like a siren-esque call. They felt familiar, echoing phrases Mark used in their endless conversations. Panic exploded in her chest, family first. The walls began to close in, shadows stretching as if alive. Had she misjudged the most reliable person in her life? She was unraveling, night turned to nightmare in the blinking of an eye, and her heart knew it was real. The familiar faces of her neighbors, once friendly smiles, now turned indifferent, their eyes glancing at her, full of something she couldn't quite identify. Her children. They needed her. She had to get a grip. But as she faced the front door where ominous, swirling shadows beckoned, whatever security she felt was slipping through her fingers like sand. Mark was more than a friend. He was watching, plotting. The night deepened, and all it took was an unblinking gaze to realize, safety had shattered, and the greatest horror was usually hidden in plain sight. What happened next would haunt her forever, pushing her into a spiral of fear she never imagined possible. Sarah's heart pounded as sunlight faded, casting an eerie gloom into her home. Shadows deepened and shifted, pressing against her as she clutched her phone, desperately replaying Mark's messages in her mind. What does he mean by that? She whispered to the void, her voice trembling as she turned toward the hallway. The whispers returned, a cacophony of hushed tones swirling around her. They twisted her thoughts, dragging her deeper into uncertainty. She felt eyes on her, scrutinizing, evaluating, a cold dread squeezing her throat. "Lucy. Max." She called, though the words echoed back with a hollow resonance, swallowed by the creeping darkness. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she dashed toward the living room, where children's laughter had once filled the air with innocence. Now, the space felt sinister. The flickering TV cast unsettling shadows on the walls, and the toys, once lively remnants of her children's joy, looked grotesque in the dim light. "Stay close," she whispered, moving cautiously. Optionless panic propelled her forward. She had to locate her children, their safety was paramount. Every instinct told her to retreat, yet the thought of abandoning her little ones was unbearable. "Mommy?" Lucy's voice came, small and soft, breaking through the rush of dark thoughts, but it was followed by an unfamiliar sound that made Sarah freeze. A chilling laugh echoed, not from her daughter, but somewhere deeper in the house, a non-earthly chime that sent a flood of terror crashing over her. Her phone vibrated again. Sarah hesitated, almost afraid to look. "Mark. I know you're scared. I can help you. We're family. I'll always protect you." The blaring urgency twisted in her gut. This wasn't love, it was possession. He always hovered just on the edge of her life, too close, too involved. "Mark, stop. Where are my kids?" She typed furiously, fingers trembling. She glanced toward the staircase, heart drowning in fear. The shadows clung to it like a veil. Had he hidden them away? Clenching her fists, she forced herself toward the first step. But the soft giggle caught her off guard again, slicing through the air the familiar melody of her children, a song turned grotesque. "Mommy, come play." The words echoed, chilling her blood. "Lucy. Max." She shrieked, scrambling up the stairs. She could feel a fog enveloping her, tangling around her legs, making every step feel insurmountably heavy. Each stair creaked like a warning, the house vibrating with cold dread, urging her to turn back. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from behind the closed bedroom door down the hall. Sarah's breath hitched as she pressed her ear against the wood. The whispers intensified, swirling in a chaotic rush, taunting her with phrases she couldn't comprehend. Her heart felt like it would burst from her chest as she twisted the doorknob, the metal cold against her palm. The door swung open, and her heart stopped. Lucy and Max stood in the middle of the room, their faces blank, eyes unfocused. The room was dark, the curtains drawn. But behind them, a figure loomed in the shadows. "Mommy, we were waiting for you," Lucy said, her voice unnaturally melodic, eyes wide and glassy. Who is that?" Sarah whispered, dread gnawing at her. "No one you need to worry about," the shadow replied, moving forward, its voice a low hiss that sent shivers down her spine. "Run!" She screamed, and just as she turned, ready to take her children and flee, the world around her dissolved into darkness. In that suffocating pitch black, only the whispers remained, growing louder, merging into a single voice that called out her name. "Sarah, you'll never leave me," as the voice enveloped her. A horrifying realization struck deep within her. Mark's true intentions were not forged in friendship but in something far more sinister. What had she invited into her home? And would she ever be able to escape? Sarah's eyes flew open, disoriented. She was sprawled on the cold wooden floor, the room around her dimly flickering, alive with shadows. The only sound was her ragged breathing. "Lucy. Max." She gasped, jumping up. The air was thick, oppressive. She'd been pulled into a nightmare again, but this time, it felt different, a weight pressing against her chest, choking her hopes. The room around her was unsettling. The bed was draped with a tattered sheet, the dresser teetering with age. There, on the wall, was a poster of a cheerful sun. A peculiar juxtaposition to the darkness that seeped into every corner. "Mommy." The soft echo of her daughter's voice sliced through the silence like a knife. It came from the other side of the house, teasing her, beckoning her forward with a melody that now felt sinister. The chilling laughter from before rang in her ears, twisting the fabric of reality. "Where are you?" she cried, heart pounding against her ribcage as she dashed out of the room. The hallway stretched endlessly, shadows trailing close behind. It felt alive, as if it were breathing along with her, wrapping her tighter in its grip with every step she took. The whispers returned, twisting through the air around her. She's waiting, come play. The familiar, childlike tone had morphed into something grotesque. Panic surged in Sarah, making her limbs feel heavy, but she pressed on. Lucy. Max. Tears blurred her vision as she pushed the fear down. The kitchen came into view, its door slightly ajar. Shadows flitted within, and the laughter bubbled up once more. It echoed off the walls, reverberating in her bones. Then she saw them, two small figures at the table, their chairs tilted precariously. Lucy and Max sat with their backs to her, heads bent down. Look, Mommy. We've made new friends. Lucy's voice was bubbly, yet there was an unsettling undertone, a darkness that made hairs stand on the back of Sarah's neck. Friends? She breathed, stepping closer, dread pooling in her stomach. As she rounded the corner, her heart sank. The twins weren't alone. A shadow loomed over them, impossibly tall and sinister. It looked at Sarah with empty eyes. Its presence felt like ice, slashing through the warmth of her memories. Why do you keep them from me? It hissed, an echo of Mark's words mingling with a malevolent undertone. Mommy, isn't he nice? Max asked, turning slowly. His eyes were wide, unblinking, shining with a glassy sheen. He tells us stories. No. Sarah shouted, rushing forward. But as she reached for them, the shadow moved in a blur, blocking her path. Leave them be, Sarah, the figure intoned, a cruel smile stretching across its face now. They finally understand. They don't need you. In that moment, a shock of clarity struck her like a lightning bolt. This wasn't Mark at all. This darkness was something more twisted, more primal. Her hands trembled as she backed away, realizing the truth. She had to break the connection between her children and this entity. Lucy. Max. You're stronger than this. Sarah pleaded, voice cracking. Remember our stories? The tales of bravery? You're not alone. The kids paused, confusion crossing their faces. The shadow flickered, narrowing its eyes as it hissed again. They are mine now. I will keep them safe from you. The world around her began to shake, the walls trembling, as if the house was alive and terrified. Mommy. The twins chorused, their voices rising, lost in the chaos, and suddenly everything dissolved, a cacophony of whispers drowning out her own thoughts. The room flickered back into darkness, pulling her into a void of despair. Sarah, the voice slithered through the dark. You can't win, you're part of this now. Desperate, she grasped at the shadows, pulling them apart like curtains. The void shifted, twisting back into the living room where it all began. But the figures were gone. Just silence. Her heart hammered in her chest as she whispered, what happened? Where are my kids? Now, only the echo of their laughter hung in the air, drawing her deeper into the house. If this was just a game, what would the rules be? Mommy, are you ready to play? The laughter echoed once more. And Sarah's blood ran cold as she realized, she might not be the one holding the dice anymore. What was waiting in the deepest shadows of her home? Darkness wrapped around Sarah like a suffocating blanket. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out every whisper of reason. She clung to hope, but it felt like it was slipping through her fingers. The laughter, the taunting, sickening laughter, seemed to bounce off the walls, surrounding her in a terrifying embrace. Lucy. Max. Her voice trembled as she called again, desperation clawing at her throat. Each step deeper into the house felt heavier, shadows creeping along the floor like living beings. She braced herself against the ancient banister, its wood splintered and warped. A soft, eerie giggle broke through the silence. The sound spiraled through the hallway like a knife, twisting Sarah's guts into a knot. She turned, the air thickening as panic surged through her. Stop it. This isn't funny. Her own voice bounced back at her, mocking her fear. Shadows flickered in the corners of her vision, shifting, changing shapes. They didn't just reside in the cracks, they danced and teased, beckoning her closer to the heart of the house. "Mommy, play with us." The familiar voices were now tainted, drenched in an eerie sweetness. It gnawed at her mind, pushing her to the edge. She pressed her hands to her temples, battling the whispers that threatened to swallow her whole. "Where are my kids?" she whispered, more to herself than anything else. Gritting her teeth, she made her way to the living room, a place that was supposed to feel safe, but now it lay in ruins. The furniture flipped, the photos distorted, as though they'd been under an unseen force. Suddenly, in the dim light, she saw movement. Two small silhouettes were reflected in the cracked glass of the once happy family portrait. Lucy and Max stood, facing the wall, their small hands pressed against it. "Lucy! Max!" she shouted, heart racing as she dashed towards them. She could see their backs, but they didn't respond. Something was wrong. "Come back. Please." Her feet pounded against the floor as she reached for the twins. Just then, the shadow reappeared, blocking her path. It curved and pulsed, a grotesque mockery of a human form. "They are playing a game and you're not invited." Sarah stopped, cold dread creeping up her spine. "What game?" The laughter erupted around her, children's laughter, sweet but laced with malice. "The game of choices," it hissed, "and you have already lost." The walls quaked, and Sarah staggered as the air thickened like fog. "No. I can't lose them. I refuse to let you take them." She could feel the desperation clawing at her voice, fraying the edges of her resolve, but the shadow only laughed harder, a cacophony of sound that surrounded her. Then, it whispered, "What are you willing to sacrifice to bring them back to you? Will it be your sanity? Your heart?" The room spun, her mind racing. Shadows twinkled around her, whispers curling into hidden spaces of her mind, filling her with doubts. She turned back to the twins, their eyes now reflecting grotesque excitement, a spark of mischief that sent terror racing through her. "Mommy, come join us," they sang, their words turning into an eerie melody that echoed through the chilling air. "No!" she screamed, scrambling to break their spell. The shadow lunged forward with inhuman speed, and Sarah found herself pinned against the wall. "We can be happy together," it crooned, "if you only surrender." Frantically, she struggled against the grip of darkness. "I will never surrender." With one last surge of energy, she broke free, managing to pull herself to her feet. She turned to the twins once again. They seemed dazzled, caught between their playful laughter and an overwhelming darkness that had taken root in their hearts. A profound sadness settled over her, but she could not falter. They needed to remember her, to remember love. "Lucy, Max, listen to me. You are my children. You are brave, and we are stronger together. Remember who you are." As her words echoed, the shadows seemed to shudder, flickering in uncertainty. But darkness has a way of twisting the innocent. And just as her voice reached a fever pitch, the house let out a scream, one that reverberated deep within her bones. "Are you willing to bear the true cost?" Sarah's breath hitched. She glanced back at the shadows closing in. The game was more complex than she imagined, the stakes higher. For a moment, she felt an unsettling peace settle over her. As she steadied herself to speak again, a shiver ran down her spine. Where did love end, and desperation begin? And just how much would she be willing to sacrifice to save her children? The laughter swelled again, intertwining with the shadows as they danced around her, pulling her deeper into their treacherous embrace. In that moment, she realized one horrifying truth: the game was only just beginning. Sarah's heart thundered in her ears as the shadows closed in, pulsating like a sinister heartbeat. The laughter seemed to merge with the very air she breathed, suffocating her as it twisted her insides. "No!" she cried out, backing away, scanning the darkness for some sign of her children. They had to be there somewhere, buried beneath the malevolent throng. "Mommy, come play." Lucy's voice, sweet yet chilling, beckoned from the depths. The atmosphere warred around her, every instinct screamed to flee, yet a deeper, impossible longing rooted her in place. "Max." "Lucy." She took a hesitant step towards the twins, the shadows swaying between them, mocking her desperation. "Join us," the shadow whispered, its voice a velvety caress that traveled straight to her soul. "They are waiting for you. Wouldn't you do anything to be together again?" Together again, those words echoed in her mind as Sarah fought off the urge to crumble. "What have you done to them?" she shouted, spitting the words like venom. The silhouette of the shadow elongated, morphing into a twisted figure of despair and malice. "They are playing a game, dear Sarah. A game that requires sacrifice, your sacrifice. What do you want?" she gasped, terror clawing at her throat. "What will it take?" "Just a taste of your pain," it trailed, as if savoring each word. "Your sorrow, your anguish, it feeds us, you see. The deeper the pain, the stronger we grow." "No." Panic surged through her, igniting a fire of defiance. The laughter morphed into a cacophony of tortured screams, filling the room and banishing her resolve. They craved her pain, her suffering. The shadows swirled violently, and Sarah struggled against an invisible grip. The walls seemed to pulse as if the very house was alive, eager to consume her. Then another voice broke through the chaotic symphony. "Mommy." A sliver of hope ignited in the chaos, a flicker that sent shards of clarity through her fog. "Max." "Lucy." she yelled, straining to hear them through the maelstrom. "I'm coming. Just hold on." Forcing her feet to move, she pushed through the thick darkness that trapped her. With every step, she could feel the whispers clawing at her mind, dripping doubt and sorrow into her consciousness. "Give in, Sarah, no. You don't own me." She fought back against the shadows, pushing memories of her children into the light, laughter, warm embraces, mornings filled with love. But the air twisted, wrapping around her throat, strangling her breath. "Sacrifice is the key," the shadows pulsed with a sickening glee, ready to devour her resolve. Just then, a flicker of bright light burst from the wall, slicing through the shadowy grip and illuminating Lucy and Max. Their eyes, wide with fear, looked back at her. "Mommy!" they cried, reaching out. In that moment, the shadows recoiled, hissing with rage. "No! You cannot take them. They belong to us." Sarah's heart swelled, bolstered by her children's gaze. "Believe in me. Remember." The shadows raged harder, the air thickening with darkness as Sarah felt a surge of strength. She ripped herself free from the suffocating blackness that clawed at her mind. "I will fight. We will fight." The laughter turned to shrieks, the shadows thrashing as she summoned every ounce of willpower. "I choose love. I choose my children." The room vibrated with a violent energy, pulsating against the weight of the darkness that had bound her. Suddenly, the ground beneath her trembled. The pulse echoed like a heartbeat, echoing a life she was desperate to reclaim. And then, amidst the chaos, a towering shape began to emerge, wreathed in darkness, an entity far more malevolent than the rest. "Your love is misplaced," it growled, soothingly sinister. "You cannot save them, and you shall pay dearly." As panic surged anew, Sarah's breath quickened. She braced herself, knowing that something monumental was about to unfold. What price would she have to pay? And was the darkness truly prepared for the fight that was about to erupt? The game had only just begun. The floor shuddered again, a deep rumble that reverberated through Sarah's bones. She sensed the shadows congealing, thickening like storm clouds about to unleash chaos. "What do you want from me?" she yelled, voice hoarse, a ringing challenge soaring through the suffocating air. The monstrous figure twisted, a mass of darkness that reeked of despair. "Your payment will take time," love, it hissed, dragging its voice through the air like fingernails on glass. You'll experience loss in ways you can't begin to understand. Begin to feel your children fading from you. A chill wrapped around her heart, a heavy grip that threatened to squeeze the air from her lungs. No! She shouted, raw defiance flaring again. You won't take them. The shadows recoiled for a moment, almost as if surprised. Then, they surged toward her like a tide. Sarah felt them clawing at her skin, sinking into her thoughts, whispering dreadful things. They can't hear you, Sarah. They are lost, just like you will soon be. Shut up. A scream escaped her. She felt everything, the weight of fear, despair, and rage all clamoring together with her heart, propelling her forward against the gloom. She pushed through, hands outstretched. Max. Lucy. Stay with me. Focus on my voice. I will bring you back. In that moment, a flicker of warmth grazed her senses, a spark of light. Her children. They were there, nestled deep in the maelstrom. She felt their presence, warmth, love. I'm here. I'm fighting for you. And with that, she thrust her arms out one last time, willing them to break free. Just then, the darkness around her thickened and twisted, forming grotesque faces that screamed in pain and rage. You cannot win, they chanted in unison, their voices a terrifying symphony, rising towards a fever pitch. You will lose everything. Not if I have my children. Sarah howled, her words soaring like a defiant anthem reverberating against the oppressive blackness. She twisted again, pushing against the slick walls of despair. Very well, the entity growled, its malice coiling like smoke. Sacrifice is required. Suddenly, from the shadows emerged the twisted forms of her worst fears, memories twisted into nightmarish reflections. Cries of loss echoed, faces of loved ones forgotten, friends whispered in the dark that she couldn't recognize. The shadows took shape, framing her vulnerabilities like cruel photography. Sarah recoiled, the agony flashing through her chest. No, she couldn't face this. You're nothing. She gasped, casting aside the horrors. The light in the room flickered, and chaos erupted again, swirling in frenzied wrath. Shadows clashed with the brightness, and she heard faint echoes of laughter intermingled with screams. Join us in darkness, dear Sarah. All pain will feel like welcome relief. With sheer determination, she thrust herself into a burst of flame that pulsed through her heart, filling her lungs with warmth. She had fought her way here, refusing to concede. I am my children's mother. She roared, igniting a fierce blaze of will, but the entity laughed, a cackling sound that chilled her blood. Very well, but remember, every brightness you summon will cast a shadow. Are you prepared to face the cost? Your love will demand an unthinkable price. The shadows loomed larger, swallowing the light, threatening to engulf everything. Sarah's heart raced in her chest, fear and courage battling within her. What was she truly willing to sacrifice? Then she heard it, a soft whisper drifting in the air, mellifluous and chilling at once. Mommy, don't leave us. Her breath caught. The chilling reality seeped into her bones. Could she really face the price demanded by the darkness? And in that instant, the shadows surged forward, whispering towards her from every direction, hungry and insatiable. Your love isn't enough. The laughter crescendoed, the shadows dancing, waiting for her answer. Would she succumb to the terrifying embrace of despair? With every second that ticked by, a truth began to form, a secret she could not have prepared for. What would she discover in the depths of her sacrifice? And would it be her salvation or utter doom? The darkness howled, a sound that raked across Sarah's psyche, demanding submission. Where are they, Sarah? It breathed, coiling around her like icy tendrils. Where is the love that will save them? The shadows suffocated her with doubt, weaving through her mind, wrapping tighter with each thought of her children. No! She shouted, her voice faltering against the weight of the entity's presence. I will fight for them. But even as she declared her resolve, something deep within her wavered. The swirling shadows fed on her uncertainty, morphing into memories, images of Max and Lucy playing, their laughter ringing in her ears like ghostly bells. Suddenly, the laughter changed. A sinister echo draped over it, twisting each joyful moment into something horrific. "Mommy, help us!" Their voices, once a balm to her heart, now dripped with terror. Heat surged through her veins, mixing with dread. "I'm coming," she called, desperation clawing at her throat. She strained against the darkness, trying to pierce through its murky depths to find her children. The shadows contorted into figures, children lost before she could reach them, faces she couldn't name smirking in the darkness. Each grin pulled at her, a visceral reminder of the joy she had clung to, but tinged now with malevolence. They knew happiness once, but now? The shadows taunted, swirling with glee. Panic erupted in her chest, and sweat trickled down her back. She remembered the stories. The warnings whispered at campfires and late-night TV shows, because darkness always demands a price. It thrived on the vulnerable. Was she truly brave enough to sacrifice for her children? Suddenly, she felt a stirring within. A fierce light ignited in her chest. "I will not let you take them," she shouted, the defiance sparking again, clenching her fists tight. But the shadows only laughed, a cacophony of mockery ringing eerily around her. "Let us show you pain, Sarah. Let us show you loss." The darkness grinned wider, morphing into grotesque facsimiles of her deepest fears. She watched helplessly as they weaved through her thoughts, eyes glimmering with malice. Would you rather feel the sting of emptiness or drape yourself in a shroud of despair? Leave them alone. She closed her eyes, images of her children drowning in darkness playing like a broken record, fueling her heart's fire, but despair encroached like vines, creeping over her resolve. "No more!" she yelled, flinging her hands out again, trembling yet fierce. "I want to let you win." Yet the shadows thickened, spreading like a flood. The air grew colder, the laughter sharper. Each chilling note shook her core. "You don't understand," it whispered, a slithering presence. "All you hold dear could disappear in an instant." A vision struck her, a glimpse of her children lost, reaching out from the abyss, their voices lost among the screams. "Help us, Mommy," they echoed, pulling her into a deep well of sorrow. The ground sputtered beneath her feet, cracks splitting the very foundation. She was being consumed, a chilling reality sinking into her. Panic exploded. "I'll find you. I will fight," she screamed, but the shadows roared back, drowning her voice in a storm of chilling laughter. "Will you pay the price?" it taunted. Sarah's heart raced as she found herself gasping amid the engulfing darkness. How much was she willing to sacrifice? The shadows loomed closer, a black tide ready to swallow her whole. There was no escape, no sanctuary. She realized, amidst the swirling chaos, she held only a thin thread of hope. Would this thread shatter? Or could it weave through the horror surrounding her? In that moment, the darkness coiled tightly, waiting for her decision, a heavy silence enveloping her like a noose. What horrifying path lay ahead for Sarah and her children? And would she dare wrestle with the shadows threatening to consume them all? The shadows pulsed, a living entity brimming with appetite and malice. Sarah felt their cold breath against her skin, chill shivers running down her spine. She could almost taste their rotten essence. Panic thudded against her chest, she was spiraling into an abyss of despair. "Let them go!" she screamed, voice shaking but fervent. The darkness laughed, a cruel sound, echoing through her soul like sharp shards of glass. It pulsed brighter, creating grotesque images of her children's fear-streaked faces, suffocating hope in her heart. Just when she thought she'd break beneath the weight of her terror, a memory spun free, glimmering like a beacon. Max's brave smile, Lucy's joyous laugh. They brought her light in the all-consuming dark. She focused on that light, forcing it to swell. "You can't take them. They're not yours." With each declaration, the shadows hissed. "Who do you think you are, dear mother?" They sneered. "You have no power here. Love has a price. Are you prepared to pay?" Before she could answer, they coiled around her, tightening their grip. The darkness was thick, enveloping her completely. Every breath felt like a struggle against a wave crashing down. She fought with every ounce of her being, her heart pounding like a war drum. "Remember, Sarah," the whispers slithered through her mind, threading through her thoughts. "You chose to forget. You let them into the dark, it was your choice." Images flashed, years of neglect, distant stares, moments lost instead of cherished. Each regret piled upon her, pressing her deeper into despair. She shook her head violently, trying to dispel the memories, but they clung like thorns, piercing deep into her heart. No. This isn't the end. In that instant, an unfamiliar sensation seeped through her anger. A shard of realization struck. This was her fault. The shadows were only consuming what she had abandoned. They mixed with her pain, lurking in her doubts. They were a product of her own failings. The darkness flickered, hesitating. "Is there absolution for a broken heart?" It crooned mockingly. "Would you pay the price to save them? Would you sacrifice your very soul?" Sarah clenched her teeth, a newfound resolve boiling beneath her fear. "I would give anything. My soul, my very existence." With that declaration, a strange rumble echoed, a tremor that shook the shadowed ground beneath her. Clarity sliced through her mind like light through clouds. "I know where to find you," she shouted. "I will unravel your grip. I will bring them back." Struggling, she reached toward the flickering remnants of her children's laughter, trying to pull them from the infinite black. As she strained to break free of the chains of despair, the ground shuddered violently. "Foolish! You dare challenge us?" The darkness shrieked, its laughter morphing into enraged roars. The shadows surged, rushing to reclaim their power, but Sarah channeled all her strength into one desperate, final cry. "Max! Lucy! I'm coming!" The world shook, shadows roiling like smoke as they recoiled, but it was not enough. Sarah could feel the darkness dragging her back, fighting with a ferocity that clawed at her very essence. Then she glimpsed a flicker of light far in the distance, glowing amid the chaos. Her children. They were out there. Panic surged anew. "No! I won't let you take them." Determination coursed through her veins. She would break through, she would find them. As shadows clawed at her legs, the world around her twisted, and she knew the fight was far from over. Would she be strong enough to face it all? The light flickered again. But the deeper question loomed like a tempest in her mind. What would the darkness demand from her for their release? The air crackled with anticipation. The entity's whispers flickered like lightning. "Are you ready to play our game, Sarah?" With that, the battle commenced anew, spiraling into terrors yet untold, wrapping her tighter in unrest. What horrors awaited as she pushed toward that light? And what price would she have to pay to save her children? Sarah gasped as the shadows tightened their hold, darkness clawing at her skin like icy fingers. Each breath was a struggle, her lungs filled with the fetid air of despair. The flickering light, the only thing that remained of hope, seemed to pulse, beckoning her forward even as the shadows seized her with chilling persistence. "Your desperation is amusing, dear mother," the darkness hissed, its voice slithering through the chaos like a serpent. The air thickened, saturated with a sinister satisfaction, and Sarah felt the weight of dread swell within her. "What makes you think you can win this game?" The grotesque images of her children flashed anew, their joyous laughs drowned by the shrieks of the shadows. She pushed the memories away, refusing to let them drag her down. For a brief moment, a glimmer of warmth ignited within her. What she felt was love, not just for them, but for herself. She wouldn't slide back into the guilt that had held her captive for so long, still locked in this surreal confrontation, Sarah found herself standing at the edge of a precipice, an abyss swirling with shadows and sorrow. The light called to her, flickering like a flame in a storm. She could feel her strength waning, but she wouldn't let them consume her. "I will not be your pawn," she murmured fiercely, even as a shudder traveled down her spine. "Every decision comes at a price, my dear," the voice echoed with cruel amusement. "And yours is just beginning. Losing your children will be the least of your worries." Without warning, the shadows rippled, morphing into a dozen faces of anguish, people she didn't recognize but felt eerily drawn to, their eyes hollow, reflecting her own insecurities. Faces tormented by regret, dreams lost. A shiver crept into her bones. Had these been lost souls like her? Did they give in to despair? Join us. Embrace the darkness. It is inevitable. They pleaded, their whispers swirling around her, urging her to surrender, but she shook her head fiercely. "No. I won't allow you to take them. I will find a way." With each pulse of her resolve, the shadows shuddered as if they could feel the force of her determination. She was more than just a vessel of sorrow, she was a mother, fueled by love. Suddenly, the air turned electric. The shadows retreated, flickering with uncertainty, and Sarah steadied herself. "What do you want from me?" Her voice cut through the tension, demanding answers, desperate for clarity. The darkness writhing beneath her suddenly stilled, its malevolence simmering just below the surface. "You seek answers," it whispered mockingly, "yet dread the truth. Sacrifice is the price of your victory, and what's dear to you will always come with a price." As she grappled with the words, a wave of images surged through her mind, flashes of a past she had fought to forget. Each one heavier than the last, broken promises, nights alone, the way Max and Lucy looked at her in their moments of need. A cold wave of shame crushed her spirit. Would she have to give up everything for their safety? No. She pushed against the weight, searching for that light again, her children's laughter ringing in her ears. Feeling a rush of newfound defiance, she took a bold step forward. "I will sacrifice for my children. I'll face whatever darkness you throw at me." The shadows recoiled in violent fury. "Foolish woman!" they howled, their voices a cacophony of rage. "You have no idea the depth of despair you've yet to face." Her heart raced. She focused on the light, a beacon of hope against the churning tide of regret and shadows. "Let them go!" she cried. But the darkness, glowing menacingly, was already rising, preparing for its next move. The words hung in the air, heavy with foreboding. She was standing at the edge of everything she feared and everything she loved. Would she fall into oblivion or break through to salvation? As the shadows surged forward once again, a single thought echoed in her mind: what was she willing to sacrifice to save them? And in that moment, the ground beneath her fractured, tearing open to reveal a void of infinite darkness. Would she leap into it willingly, or could she find a way to defy the very essence of despair? Time was running out, and the true game was just beginning. Sarah felt the abyss beckoning, the shadowy tendrils wrapping tighter around her legs. Each pulse of malevolence pressed against her chest, squeezing her hope. Yet, somewhere within, the flicker of her children's laughter ignited a new strength. "I will save you," she cried, feeling herself teeter at the precipice of despair. "I refuse to be consumed, I choose love." The darkness roared back, its voice a dissonant symphony of agony and delight. The shadows writhed, swirling around her in a tempest of fury, their whispers turning vicious. "Love? You speak of love? You have left them unguarded for too long. Every choice has consequences, Sarah." But she wouldn't buckle under this weight again. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the tender memories of Lucy and Max, their sticky hands after art projects, the echo of giggles at bedtime stories, the serene warmth of shared moments. "You can't take those from me. I remember." As she centered her resolve, the shadows ebbed for a moment, wariness splintering the darkness. The figures shaped from her despair faltered, their torment diminished by her fierce determination. The shadows revealed glimpses of the twins, faces of innocent joy twisted in torment, begging silently for release. "Mommy!" They called out, their voices harmonizing in a chilling melody that raked through her heart. "Come save us!" The darkness recoiled. "Join them, Sarah, join the game. It's not too late to surrender." She shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "No. I won't give in. You can't win. I will do what it takes." And with that, something deep within her surged into brilliance. An incandescent light unfurled inside, brighter than any of the consuming darkness, illuminating not just her path but the lost part of herself, the part that had suppressed her own voice, her own power. "I'd sacrifice my dreams, my past, anything for their safety," she shouted, surging toward the shimmering light. The shadows shifted, repelled by the warmth of her love. Her heart raced fiercely with the possibility of victory. "You want pain? I have felt it. You want despair? I will rise above it." As the waves of shadows recoiled, something began to crack within their grasp, a fissure splitting the tendrils of darkness. Lucy and Max flickered into view, caught in the chaos but alive, and radiant in their innocence. "Mommy!" Their voices echoed once more. "Save us!" With renewed courage, Sarah darted toward them, each step lit by the glow of her determination. "Hold on. I'm coming." As she reached for her children, the darkness lunged, but Sarah invoked every ounce of bravery and love she possessed, commanding the shadows to relent. "No more. Not today." Her fingers brushed against Lucy's, and she could feel the warmth, the lifeline she needed, anchoring her back to reality. With her children tethered to her, she pooled every fragment of love into a vibrant blaze that illuminated the shadows around them. "You will not take us!" The malevolent chorus screamed, but their voices were breaking, dissolving beneath the vibrant tide of Sarah's love. A brilliant flash erupted, piercing the unending night. Light cascaded all around them, each flicker brightening, wrapping Sarah and the children in warmth, unraveling the constricting fear. Slowly but surely, the darkness began to dissolve, shrieking like a wounded animal. With one final exclamation, she cried out, "You have no hold over us." The shadows disintegrated into nothingness, leaving behind a tranquil silence that settled like soft snow. Together, they breathed a sigh of relief. They were free. As the morning sun streamed through the windows, filling the home with light, Sarah collapsed into her children's arms. The weight of the world lifted, and lightness blossomed within her heart. The shadows and fears were gone, vanished into thin air. "Mommy!" Lucy beamed, her little arms encircling her tightly. "We were scared." "I know, sweetheart." Sarah kissed their foreheads. "But it's over now. We are together, and together we are strong." With serenity washing over her, she promised to cherish every moment, nurturing their bond, never again to let darkness creep into their lives unnoticed. In the following days, Sarah felt a new breath of life. With deliberate steps, she sought to reconnect, walking through parks, storytelling at bedtime, creating memories that would fill their hearts with light. And as she tucked them into bed each night, she promised them and herself that no shadow would ever disrupt their family again. They would face every storm together. She was no longer just a mother bound by fear but a warrior fueled by love. "Mommy, tell us a story again." Max's little voice bubbled with excitement, and as she began to tell tales of bravery and adventure, their laughter filled the house, chasing away even the faintest remnant of darkness. In the end, love triumphed. Sometimes, battles were hidden in plain sight, stretched across the delicate fabric of life. Yet as long as they had each other, they would always emerge victorious, casting shadows into the dawn. So remember, dear viewer, as you step into the next moment of your life, hold on to love fiercely, illuminate every corner, and never allow darkness to dim your spirit. And now, make sure you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm because your support truly makes a difference. Don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this shocking conclusion. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.